G'day humans, Chris Stead from Fine here. We're talking NFT games and today the subject is Dogami. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I've done a big analysis of Dogami already. And that was probably a couple of months ago. Now, since then, quite a few things have changed with the game, so I caught up with the CEO and founder of Dogami, Max Stöckl, to find out more about what he's got planned for this game coming up, where it is on its roadmap, how things are tracking, and what has changed in the last couple of months in the way they're approaching the gameplay. So let's dive in and have a chat to Max. Max, thanks very much for joining me, mate. I'd like to start by asking about how things are coming along. We were looking or hoping to get a playable beta this quarter. How are we looking at that?
Won't be this quarter, but we launch end of July, so that's the plan. We will launch though the first testing version probably in June.
In June.
But the plan is that we have like 3 different games sort of, so that represent the life cycle of a dog. So a dog goes through 3 life cycles, like puppy and adult and senior. And in end of July, we're gonna launch the first game for the puppies, which is going to be that sort of bonding phase where you have to nurture your dog, teach him tricks, etc. And as you go, you can earn already crypto tokens.
And do you have a plan yet for the next 2 phases, rough release windows?
Yeah, so the adult phase is gonna be released in early 2023. So we want to, build the best experience. It's also going to require some like testing, etc. And for the adult phase, we really want to push AR, and we're quite inspired by Ingress, Pokemon Go, or also Step Band these days. We really think that this move to earn has a lot of potential that we also want to, use.
Well, that was my next question, actually. I was going to say, at a glance, you could say Dogami feels like Nintendogs meets Pokemon Go. That's a fair analysis, do you think?
Yes, but we want to be a bit more grown up than that, I would say. But yeah, in terms of game mechanics, definitely, that's the inspiration. But when you look at our brand, right, it's quite cool, and I think it appeals to a lot of people. So also the game experience you have should reflect that, to have like, multiplayer modes, maybe some competitive aspects in gaming, etc. So we're super excited of what we will do with the game and where we'll take it.
So obviously you're launching first with a puppy phase, which I guess on face value from what you've seen with other games, you might think is the more the less adulty version of the game. Is that fair? Or how are you going to make that feel like it's a bit more adult?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we do have a big backstory, like where does Dugami come from? Why are they on Earth? Why do they bond with humans? And the idea is, like first there were Dogami and then there were dogs. So this is sort of the story. And this narrative should be blended into the first version of the game with like Easter eggs, maybe some small quests, but then you at least have some story to hold on to while the puppy grows up.
In that type of game experience that we see in like the likes of Nintendogs, the AI is such an important part of the experience, because if the dogs aren't engaging you in a fresh and dynamic way each time you play the game, and it might turn into a bore quite quickly. So how are you looking at approaching the AI, especially in the puppy phase?
I'm sorry, what do you mean with IOA?
The AI, the artificial intelligence, how the dogs behave when they're interacting with the player.
Yeah, so from the beginning, it's going to be more like there's not going to be any AI. So we're going to use programmed animations and pre-programmed sort of behavior. I think introducing AI in games and having some randomness is quite tricky where we're at right now, but that's definitely something to explore in the future.
Right. And obviously moving on, you've got the adult phase. And in this phase, we're going to see some mini games come into the experience. I understand as you begin to train your NFT dogs into different types of careers. Can you give us an idea about how those types of mini games, what we can expect there with the mini games?
The idea is that you have quests and mini games that are being played in augmented reality, and also having quests and mini games that force you to go outside. So very similar to, let's say, Pokemon Go, where you have to, go to a certain location to find something. And this is obviously amazing and can be woven into like the play to earn aspect. So people have to actually go somewhere to find treasures, etc., etc. So yeah, that's the high level idea.
Right. So the quests
regarding regarding the career tracks. So yes, we also do think in those alleys. So for example, if you, I don't know, police dog, then you have to go to a police station and maybe have to solve quests in that respect.
Right. Okay. And so the move to earn side of it is the quest side of it. Are there mini games in terms of just the because I know there's a PvP component. So is that tied into like more traditional mini games, like what you might see in like a Mario Party or something like that?
That was the very first idea, I would say, and I wouldn't want to drop it right away. But for the PvP aspect, we're quite inspired by like Ingress.
Yeah.
So Ingress was the first game of Niantic, and maybe you remember.
Yes.
Where there were like two factions, and you had to compete against each other. And I think this could also be a very compelling game mechanic for our game. But to be completely frank, we are currently fleshing it out. I mean, there's a lot of ideas, to be honest, but now we need to focus on the most value-adding features, and they're going to be executed.
So one of the things I came across in my research, and things may have changed, I realized that you're still developing the game, but with this idea that you could pay for kind of deluxe items that could get you through cooldowns or timers quicker. And there was another thing that I read about where there was certain tricks that you couldn't teach your dog unless you had the right accessory. Is this correct? Are these features of the game?
So yes, they're going to be consumable and accessories that sort of boost some stats to the dog. But what we want to avoid, like any other game, is to have pay to win. And that's obviously a delicate balance. What was the second part of your question? Sorry.
Oh, so yeah, one question was like, I was worried that was going to create a pay to win scenario there with the certain people being able to teach their dogs tricks that would help them. And so that's something, how are you going to try and avoid that?
Yeah, no. So currently, as things stand, we don't want to do that you need to buy something to teach a certain trick. But obviously you have a lot of degrees of freedom. I mean, play to earn or play and earn space, as I like to call it these days, is in a very experimental phase. So.
And the other question was about the cooldowns, whether you could circumnavigate the cooldowns by outlaying extra money, which is something we see a lot in mobile titles. Have I misunderstood that? Is that what you guys are going for? Or is it a different type of mechanic?
We haven't foreseen a mechanic like that yet, I would say. I think there were some rumors on Discord that you could see, like with the doga bones, that you could reduce the cooldown, but it's not fixed yet. So, yeah.
Okay, so you're out walking your dog in the real world, and you come across someone else who is playing the game.
Yeah.
What happens?
Well, ideally you get some bonus, right? Or you can have a match against him or her. And I mean, my goal is really to build a big community around Dugami of enthusiastic players that just, love the experience, love going out, love meeting other dog gamers. And that's what I want to build with the multiplayer and PvP game.
Now there's a third phase, which is the spirit phase. I was originally read it as being a spirit phase, but I noticed you mentioned the word senior before. So is it spirit or senior phase?
In the white paper, we call it spirit. Yeah, that's true.
So I haven't been able to find out much information about what happens in that phase, other than it happened. You reach it after you've reached your breeding limit. So is there anything you can tell us about what happens in the spirit phase, and how does your NFT retain value in this phase?
Yeah, so we're also again thinking in different options here. One option could be that having spirit dogs in your kennel gives the rest of the pack, so to say, boosts. And then also we're thinking about having the opportunity to stake those spirit dogs to get doga, for example. So those are two options. But as you know, like most play to earn games struggle with like an overinflation of NFTs. So we need to find a smart way to decrease the amount of NFTs in the market. And that's the base idea of the spirit phase.
And
but hang on, but I think the idea is also that in the spirit phase, you can still use your dog. I mean, we do have this promise of, it's your lifelong companion, so to say.
And with the breeding mechanic, can you talk me through the decision to award only one of the players with an NFT, and how that mechanic works? My initial reaction to that was like, oh, I'd be pretty devastated if I didn't walk out of that with a new dog.
Yeah. So this is actually not disclosed yet, and we also want to align this with the community first. So we were thinking of a blind auction mechanism. So basically you have two players that want to breed with each other, and then out of that you get a puppy. So, and then the players have to give a blind bid, so to say, and they say how much they would bid, and then the other player can either accept or they can outbid the other one. And I thought it would be a really nice mechanic to find a price, but there are several limitations that only arose, or that we only realized later, let's put it that way. One of which is when you bid against another player, you know exactly how much doga the other player has. So let's say if you have a diamond dog, you can just check the other person's wallet, and then you can easily outbid them. And this is obviously a huge limitation next to the asynchronous nature of these breeding mechanisms. So even though I think it's a good mechanism to find a price, given the transparent nature of blockchain, there's a lot of ways to hack it. So that's why we sort of abandoned it. The idea now is that we have a breeding mechanism similar to Set Run, the horse racing game, where you have like male and female dog, and the male dog gets paid for siring. But we're now fleshing out the details.
And does it have to be two different players, or can a single player do it with their own NFTs if they've got a boy and a girl dog?
I mean, we always say that we believe in true digital ownership. So I don't see why people who own two dogs of the same breed should not be able to breed. Plus, it's pretty easy to hack, right? You just put it in two different wallets. So it's no need to forbid that.
So you're launching with 8 breeds, I believe, but hopefully aiming for 300 eventually. So that's a pretty big gap. How quickly will we see new breeds come into the game?
So right now we have 10, right, that are out. There's going to be another 5 in end of May. And then I think by the end of the year, we're aiming towards 32 breeds. But we're now really scaling the production a lot. So we're getting faster and faster. And then you'll also have crossbreeding. So the idea is that you have breeds that are that you only discover when you try to breed dogs with each other. Like let's say, I mean, my favorite example is always golden doodle, like a golden retriever with a poodle. And that you cannot buy in the primary sales, but can only be bred. So that I think it's pretty cool.
Right. So you guys will introduce just the pure breeds, and then it'll be up to the community then to create a chunk of those 300 breeds.
Yeah, that's the base idea.
Yeah. One mechanic that did catch my eye was with the bonding level and how that increases over time, continuously over time as opposed to being a daily reset thing. And because it defines how much Doga coins that you can win in any given day. And I was wondering how that would then apply to scholars who may only be getting access to a dog to play with for a short period of time, and how they will never be able to, I guess, reach that high level in a given time frame. So have I understood that correctly, or how you're looking at the way that scholars can get involved, given the way that the bonding level defines how much you can earn?
So we want to enable the delegation of dogs. So basically one player can, for example, raise another player's dog, and then you can think of how the revenues are split. So what we're going to do is, so a dog has a normal level, and I think then there's also the bonding. So that's another change that was made to the game design, as we have it in the white paper, I think, which still needs to be reflected there. But the idea is that you need to log on frequently or like regularly to keep that sort of coefficient high, that you can get the highest rewards. And then you also need to take care regularly of the tasks.
Right, so that's the other level, isn't it?
Does that clarify the question, or?
Yeah, I think so. So you're saying that the idea is that the scholar can just keep that multiplayer really high. By being really active. Yep, I got you.
Yeah.
And with that entire arrangement, you mentioned a revenue split. So is that the way that you're looking at providing an avenue for scholars to get involved, or are you also looking at like an upfront fee rental situation?
I think the revenue split is the most obvious one, because then the incentives are aligned, right? Because otherwise you can just pay someone upfront fee and then player might never play. So having like basically success fee or performance-based fee makes more sense in that sense. But what I also do expect is that there's just going to be some dog trainers that raise the puppies to the adult phase.
Now, the ultimate goal is the petaverse.
Yeah.
How do you explain the petaverse, and how far beyond the initial gameplay that we know about can we expect in the petaverse?
Yeah. So petaverse is for us always this umbrella, I would say, for all of the experiences we build that you can experience with your Dugami. So, and I always use that catch-all phrase, like the petaverse is all around us, because I'm really into that vision of the metaverse as something that can also be augmented reality as opposed to only virtual reality. So my vision is that we have like this experience that I described earlier, augmented reality experience, where you have to do quests outside, that this just, gets enriched with new content on a daily basis or running basis. And then going down, like maybe one to 2 years fast forward, we also want to enable our community to build experiences for Dogami and have them participate in the success of the games they build. So that makes sense. And so then you have like a lot of experiences and people can pick and choose. And the Dogami NFT is the access ticket to the petaverse.
Right. And so we may see the petaverse expand then to include other animals, do you think? And if so, what other animals?
Right now it's only dogs. But yes, we get that question a lot. Is there going to be a cat army, or is there going to be a hamster army? So no concrete plans yet. Yeah.
But definitely potentially.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? Yeah.
Look, my one final question, like you've raised a substantial amount of backing from some pretty major players. I noted that one of those was huge, massive fellow French company, Ubisoft. What does it mean to have someone like Ubisoft in your corner with a game like this? And is there more to that relationship than just financing, given that you guys are based in the same part of the world?
Right now, it's mostly a financing or investor relationship, I would say. But we do work with them on figuring different things out, getting their feedback on game design, thinking about security aspects of play and earn games or blockchain games. So there is some cooperation, but it's not like they are our parent company or something like that. It's more like a informal partnership, I would say.
Almost like an advisory role.
Correct. Yeah.
Look, Max, thank you very much for taking the time out to speak to me about your game. Definitely be following it all the way through and looking forward to see what happens. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
So there you have it, guys, right from the horse's mouth. Thanks very much to Max for taking some time to talk to me. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you check out my original gameplay analysis. As you would have heard in that interview, quite a few things have changed, but a lot of my general thoughts still apply. So I'll stick that there, or you'll see it in a second. Other than that, make sure you check out my other videos as well. And thanks very much for watching. Until next time, happy gaming, no worries.